Online debates win an art. Every day we fight the system just to make our way. We've been down for too long, but that's alright. We were built to be strong and fight all night while y'all dreaming. Look, I'm asking y'all to come ride with me. We won't steer you wrong, just vibe with me. We steady stressing, hand on my Smith & Wesson, count on my blessings, classes in session. We teach you about anti-blackness and the truth behind oppression. What characterizes the discourse of white supremacy and anti-blackness is the certain super intensity of attention, exorbitant single-mindedness concerning the centrality of sexuality to all things in turn, deprioritizing anti-blackness and claiming to win the root cause is completely reductionist. Anti-blackness is the condition of possibility for the grievances presented by the F and the 1AC. They say that they are performers, the 2AC did not perform nothing. And if anything, the stage upon which these dramas can be enacted are byproducts of anti-blackness. At best, the F is an attempt to remodel the stage, while the girding to a pillars of U.S. social, political, and ontology are completely ignored. What is needed is the complete destruction of the stage. It is pillars and its protagonists and antagonists, as Fanon would say. It is the only thing worth the effort of starting. This would allow for new personhood and equity and democracy that has not yet been tried to not be based on the taxonomy of subjects and all the baggage provided by the humanism and modernity writ at large. Now moving on to the permutation. They say perm do both. The use of the word perm is problematic and lacking ethics, deletes unnecessary antagonists that bay, claiming to solve for anti-blackness under the so-called umbrella, which is symptomatic and hallucinatory politics. From a supposed to be left-leaning scholarship, come on, y'all, that promotes an intellectual deficit that which cannot theorize the black ontology, let alone formulate a resistance to it. The permutation is still an extension of civil society. It's an attempt to co-opt our political stances, what's to sanitize, sterilize revolutionary politics, and even if it's not our opponent's intentions, it's a tool which tries to hijack office. Perm is not revolutionary. Don't get it twisted. Our approach is mutually exclusive. Literally, the plan of the 1AC cannot exist in the same world where the negative is advocating for the end of the paradigm. They dream of having something to save, whereas the slave is stuck in the slavocracy of slavery that has no awakening unless there has no awakening. The permutation operates in an unmarked center of cultural power, and its emptiness allows for anti-blackness to fill in. It stuns the ability to mobilize against the structures of non-flinching paradigmatic analysis, and the permanent, the net benefits group them. They said that they have two created consensual fantasy space, creates a space that is only perpetuation of political impetus and collective spinelessness, and promotes a type of politics that doesn't want to theorize anti-blackness or let alone formulate chances against it. Wilders in 2002 would say that passive revolutions have a way of incorporating the black bodies into the term, but he's the term of the debate. But when that debater comes and shits on your fantasy space, as we have been doing consistently throughout this debate, we are seen as the ranker. We are crowded out. We are crowded out of politics. We are not seen as political. It is important that we are not be swayed by optimism of awakening from the 1AC dream. It's alignment and subsequent all-encompassing discourse. This is a disadvantage coming out of the 1AC that they have failed to address, because Harman has been argued that the so-called great emancipatory discourse of modernity, sexual liberation, political discourse predicated on the garments of suffering and whose constituent elements are exploitation and alienation might not have been developed for it had not been for accumulation and fungibility of those put in the hole below of the shift in the transatlantic slavery. Look, chattel slavery did not simply retardalize the ontology of the African. It also created the human out of the culturally desperate entities from Europe to the East. Look, their net benefits intensify the anti-blackness by way of crowding out scenario, regardless of the sentiment or spirit of unity and mobilized by the political discourse of the 1AC. They are undesirable. We say that they are undesirable because the permanent crowding out scenario by the absence of form of disenfranchisement and cries out the insatiable demands necessary for the would-be abolition of slavery. This is qualification of black resistance related and peculiar to the social political afterlife of slavery, while it relegates black suffering to the periphery of civil society again. It is impossible for it to enunciate from beyond the epistemic which it reeks from anti-blackness. This application is pervasive because the net benefits, regardless of its variance in its operation, as a fixation, a form of delusion that prevents one from apprehending and seeing the things themselves as they really are around us. They enable a plethora of shaming discourses in response to revolutionary politics and legitimate widespread disavowal of any notion that the U.S. itself and not merely its policies and practices are unethical. This is a DA to their methodology because your identity and how you focus your on identity. Racial slavery gives rise to the question of the body's property. Your identity will never be at the level of structural vulnerability to appropriation, a perpetual involuntary openness, and a paradigmatic condition of black existence in the modern world. The defining characteristics of anti-blackness, the ethos of slavery, the ideological and effective matrix of white supremacist project amidst no legitimate black self-defense, recognizing no legitimate assertions of black self-possession, privacy, or autonomy. This is exactly what the affirmative is trying to promote. Moving on to the question of AIDS. The political, economy, and cultural politics of AIDS and pandemic and the grammar geography of the greatest public health crisis in the record history has only solidified these tendencies, so much so that the paraphrase Fanon, whoever says AIDS says Negro and vice versa, as such north-south imaginary proves itself misleading and insufficient to apprehending the present conjuncture. I suggest that the qualitative difference between the African vis-a-vis the other regions of the global south is rejected, and the qualitative difference is the black personality of the U.S. social formation. The color line is not black, not white, while the discourse of globalization is consumed by the proliferation of modernity. In other words, the election of black president aside police brutality, mass incarceration, segregated substandard schools and housing, astronomical rates of HIV, and the threat of being turned away at the mass of the post still constitutes the life experience of the black, but such empirical base rejoinders would lead us in the wrong direction. We find ourselves in solid ground, which only mystify rather than clarify the question. The question is the greatest power of all. Alternative. Alternative is the one that provides the only viable, that is to say, the ethically consistent means of unraveling the single bundle of nerves in which violence and race, nation, class, gender, sexuality does not bear distinction. The accelerated possibility that we might be taken serious, not at least by intramural engagement, the political catastrophe remains is neither a restoration nor a restitution, but a creative destruction. Unlike the affirmative, we will not oppose the alternative. We will not be an ethical modernity will no longer sound like an oxymoron. From there on, we could actually busy ourselves with concepts such as the affirmative that have been falsely promoted to the levels of antagonism. The alternative is the one that maintains the credentials as an academic without sacrificing one's principles as a revolutionary. It is the only ethical grammar related to modern politics and modernity at large, for it draws our attention not to how democracy is used and abused, but to what underlies the modern world's capacity to think, act, and exist spatially and temporally. Look, the alternative is the only one that goes beyond defining measures of white supremacy, black slavery, foundational to modern humanism objects. Freedom is the hub of humanism, infinite conceptual trajectories, but these trajectories only appear to be infinite. They are finite in the sense that they are predicated on the idea of freedom from contingency that can be named or at least conceptualized. What we are calling for into question is gratuitous freedom. Freedom, why do humans take such pride in self-adjustment, diminishing rather than intensify the project of liberation? How do we get from 68 to the present, allowing the notion of freedom to attain ethical purity of one's ontological status that one would have to lose one's human coordinates and become black, which is to say that one would have to die, and y'all ain't ready to lay your life on the line to suffer the impacts of the one. See, for black freedom is not ontological, rather than experiential question. There is not a philosophical way, a credible way to attach an experiential and contingent rider onto the notion of freedom, which one considers to be the black. Rather, the riders could be placed. Black freedom would be hyperbolic through no less true, ultimately unattainable. Freedom from the world, freedom from humanity, freedom from everyone else, including one's black self. Gratuitous freedom has never been a trajectory of humanist thought, which is to say the infinite trajectories of freedom to emanate from humanism's hub or anything but finite. You have no line of flight for the slave.